Indeed, well worth it. And I liked how you used various different sporting analogies, boxing matches and football matches in your short talk. Very flexible there. We're going to open it up for questions and answers. I've got a few written questions submitted, and we might have time for our roving microphone and to entertain verbal questions from the audience. We've got 15 minutes left. My first question has come from the audience, and it was a similar one to what I was going to ask. I'm going to ask the same question to each of the three speakers, and we'll start with Andrea. And the question is, do you see customer differences between East and Western cultures? And when I had the privilege of speaking with Andrea before, just before this session, he was telling me about the speed and the expectation of Hong Kong and China customers is fast, 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 where a luxury brand does take time. So you may want to comment on that, Andrea, first, or any other major differences that you notice between the Eastern Asian cultures and the West.
Another interesting difference I've noticed, actually, and I can draw you the example here, is that on the shoe shape. For example, in Europe we have a rounded shoe shape, while Asian customer they prefer a pointed one. So this is actually a basic difference, but tells you a lot. You know, from the shoes you wear, you understand what kind of person you have in front of you. And this is actually the basic starting point for my training when I talk with my staff, because it's essential and fundamental to understand the differences. Just for example, if you think about a crocodile skin, of course, all our crocodiles are farmed ones, they are not wild. And for the scales, Japanese people, they love small scales, while Russian people, they love bigger ones. So in any country has a specific requirements. Korean people now, they have a kind of European taste for the shoes, for example. They like a round shape, while Asian, in terms of mainlanders, they are still more on the pointy ones. So these are basic differences that tells you a lot about how difficult it is to satisfy your clientele on a daily basis.
The advantage of this open stage is that you can see the shoes that Andrea is wearing, and he's a good promotion for his business, so hopefully that will encourage you to visit his landmark shop this afternoon.
Thanks.
Fionn, for you, again, talking about customer behaviors, big differences between East and West, and I'm going to add in a little subtlety here. Koreans and Japanese quite often are in competition with each other in brands business. Do you see differences also between Korea and Japan in the way you promote your brand? Yeah. Fionn is just asking me for clarification, and yes, do you promote the brand differently in Japan than you do in Korea?
Yes. In fact, Japanese customer, they need much more local adaptation and increase the relevancy of the product presentation to them. So for our team in Japan market, they did a lot of consumer research to find a way to present the product relevantly to those customers. And so for our skincare products, a certain level of local adaptation in marketing communication is very important.
Good, thank you. Kenneth, your turn for Pandora. I notice the bracelets, the charms are quite often based on different occasions in someone's life. I guess there would be differences when you're selling that in China versus other parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that we also learned was that it's true that we are about unforgettable moments. So we like to think that women go in and they buy a moment for each occasion, and that's how they put together their bracelet. One of the first things we noticed in Asia was that was not always the case. The color and the styling was actually many times more important. So one of the mistakes we did was we were, teaching and preaching to our staff, listen, it's about the moments. You have to understand what she's buying it for and then put it together. And it took some time, and then the shop managers came back and said, listen, you got it all wrong. They want a beautifully looking bracelet. We were like, oh, okay, good. So that was the first learning, and I think one of the other ones is when we look at it, you can't really talk about Asia as such. So it's very different when we look in terms of color, styling, stones, sparkle from Hong Kong going into China. China, big, bold, strong colors. Go up to Japan, very muted colors, the pale pink, the silver, almost no colors and very, very thin and delicate. So, throughout Asia, the customer preferences are very, very different as well.
What about charm bracelets for men? Would that work?
I get asked that all the time. The standard answer is we've still so much to do in terms of the women. And we seem to believe that we know how to do charm bracelets for women. We don't really want to jinx that and try to do it for men.
Cute answer, I like that. Kenneth was talking about CP, Chinese purchasing power. I'm going to ask Andrea, how quickly is your expansion going in China? I know you quite often, your focus was on Hong Kong, Singapore. In your talk, you touched on China. Do you see rapid expansion in China for your shoes?
Well, actually, just to mention, in 3 years we opened 10 shops in China. And as I was telling before to the audience, the opening of the shop is directly proportional to my headache and my hair loss, So China is a fantastic market, very difficult to understand. After 10 years here, I still consider myself very ignorant in terms of Chinese culture and how to conquer this market. At the same time, I do believe that I do agree completely with Mr. Kenneth concerning these new terms of luxury that we have for, as we can say, accessible luxury for this Chinese middle class that is growing so fast and so big. At the same time, we modified actually our product in order to satisfy also this new growing purchasing power from Chinese customer. And at the same, I do believe for the next 20 years, China will be the leading trend in terms of buying. So I see a lot of potential.
Interesting. I have a question from Japan on that themes from one of our Japanese members in our delegation in the audience. With so many handmade shoemakers that are in existence in Italy, how do you segregate yourself from your competition?
Well, when they ask me about these competitors, it's unfortunately it's like when you are in love with a woman and you don't look at other women, you just concentrate.
From the country of romance.
You just concentrate on your own woman in order to please and satisfy her. So what I do believe is that we actually try to distinguish ourselves from the others because we need to transmit the same passion as we make the shoes to our customers. We don't make nuclear weapons, we make, all of us make shoes. So there is not a super high definition or distinguish between us or another brand. It's the service that matters, it's the quality of the product that matters. So when you enter in any of Santoni stores worldwide, you need to feel pampered by us. And you need to feel the experience. You need to go out from the stores that your only thing that you think about it is that you want to come back. This is my main point.
That's a good main point. Fionn, may I ask you a similar question on that too then? How do you distinguish yourself in Asia with all the other cosmetic companies in the world? Because many people think cosmetics are the same. But Andrea talked about service, and in your case, how do you differentiate amongst your competitors?
In fact, skincare and cosmetics are a highly fragmented market with so many brands. And we find that there are three key differentiations among all the brands. Number one, very basic one, is product efficacy. Because with skincare products, we cannot lie, because once customer put on their face, they can experience the product efficacy. So that's a very fundamental success factor. And in operational wise, there are another two success factor. One key factors. One is marketing communication. As I mentioned in previous question, we put lots of research and marketing investment to better understand our customer and custom-made our marketing communication. For example, in our office, we have our own research focus group facilities, and that's how we better understand customer and present our products. And another one is service. Service is the key to engage our customers, especially women. Somehow relatively more emotional and vocal. So if we serve our customers better, in fact, that help the positive word of mouth a lot.
Interesting. Kenneth, you talked about the Hong Kong culture and that your business is really driven to local rather than travelers and Cantonese websites and anything like that. What else can you share with us about the uniqueness of your product and drawing customers into your store? Because Pandora is selling one branded product, Pandora. So I'd imagine the challenge is to get those customers into your stores. What else can you share with us on how you do that?
Well, I think first and foremost, we are right now in the marketplace in a very fortunate position. I think skincare is very, very competitive. I think handmade bespoke shoes is very competitive. So is jewelry, but Pandora right now in the affordable luxury segment in Asia doesn't have a whole lot of competition. So we like to compare ourselves to Swarovski, not because they do the same, it's non-precious, they do crystals, but in terms of price point, we're more or less the same. So you can say we're competing for the same customer. What we've done in Hong Kong is again, it's the local relevancy which goes through everything we do. And whenever we do a marketing plan for Hong Kong, or we do the same marketing plan for China, it's all about local relevance. So we don't focus on the tourist, and many, they question me and say, why is it? I mean, you have 50 million tourists coming into Hong Kong. They must be more interesting than the 7.5 million people that live here. Well, I turn that around and I say, it's not that we don't want to sell to the tourists, because they are interesting, but the Cantonese population, the 7.5 million people living here, they are here for good. They're going to stay here, they're going to buy into our brands, not just next week when they are visiting, but for the next 3, 4, 5 years. We have customers in the US and the UK that's been with us for 10 years. So it's about creating that connection between our customers and a long-term relationship. So yes, we do focus on the local population mostly. Not to say that travelers, the tourists and also airports, they are fantastic avenues for us because we're a gifting product. We just don't target it specifically in our marketing efforts.
Thank you. We have time for a couple of verbal questions, and I believe we have a microphone that can move around. Yes, we do. So I'm going to ask one question, and this gives you the chance to think if you'd like to ask a verbal question, and if you can put up your hand, we'll get a microphone to you for that. Following Kenneth's last comments about keeping the customer relationship over a period of time, again, you had some interesting comments in your PowerPoints about that, about customer service, and you've gone as far as arranging weddings for your customers. So I can see you being rushed by the stage from these people asking for similar services. But what other things can you talk to us about keeping customer relationships in the longer term?
Customer relations management is science and also art. So what I go through in my presentation is more the art part of customer relations. And for the science part, in fact, we have well-developed customer relations circle. We apply the big data, analytics, marketing engineering concept in data mining, understand the customer deep down to the profile level, and then so that we can really do custom-made and targeted communication. So we have the right product, right message, reaching the right customer at the right time. So yeah, these are the technology or know-how that available in Hong Kong nowadays. In fact, recent years, Hong Kong University, they have the marketing engineering department collaborating with IBM to apply the technology and know-how into especially retail area. So that helped a lot.
Timing and relevance, very important. Vancouver President Paul Gibbons, and then we'll have time for one more question from the audience. Paul.
My message is for, our question, sorry, is for Andrea with in regards to the IWC Santoni co-marketing. I'm curious as to who approached who, and are your customers the same? Is that why it came together? And is it going to be, are there going to be any retail, like buying shoes and a watch at the same time?
Thank you for the question. And actually, it's a nice story in the sense that, if I remember it well, it was something like 8 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, that Mr. Santoni himself was asked by Mr. John Rupert of Richmond Group to present his company during a convention. And actually, it shows this great capability in this shoemaking business that Mr. Rupert then started to investigate the possibility, together with Mr. George Kern, IWC CEO, about the possibility of creating a masterpiece together. And from there, actually, was born the idea of producing the Portofino in Portuguese for men. Now we expanded also to the woman line. So if you go to any IWC shop worldwide, you can ask IWC Santoni by IWC Straps. And it's an amazing art piece because it's made in-house by us. And you can have a cross-selling. You buy the shoes from Santoni with the same pattern of your watch. Of course, in some countries we do it. For what concerns Asia, we just did an event. You can Google it in Manila when we opened our new store in Shangri-La, where actually we display the watches together with the shoe. Essentially because our Manila partner is the monopolist of the shoe and the watch making business there. Depending on the country, essentially. I do think that is a very interesting idea. Sometimes depending on the country. In Hong Kong, we will do it quite soon. What you can do, you can visit, for example, is every month and a half, we create an event together with IWC where our master painter comes either to Hong Kong or to China or to Singapore, and we display the shoes in IWC boutique.
Good. One more question, and if you notice, you have the advantage that if you ask a question from the audience, these three photographers focus in on you very sharply. So, last question. Thank you.
Yeah, my wife and I went on scientific research went to the mall in Seattle, and we realized that 90% of the shops in there are really women-centric. And even my ties, my wife buy my ties and all that stuff. So, just on the stage, is that when you do the consumer surveys, really center on the women's and the huge difference between the women in the West and the East?
Can I?
I'm not sure who that was for, but
yeah. It's not for you.
now it's okay. I grabbed it. All right. So yes, we are fully focused on the female shopper, and I'll tell you a bit why, because we did some research about it. So 60% of our global business is gifting, and within gifting, 40% of those gifts are being bought by men. So when we got that research, we said we do way too little for men. We need to target them. We need to do some advertising in GQ and to target the men specifically to get them into our stores. And our research team then said, hold on for a sec, let's take a bit deeper dive into this data. And what they found is, after additional interviews and additional research, is that the men only really buys what the women ask them to buy. And it's a fact. So we'd like to think that when we buy jewelry, we came up with the idea, you know, honey, I went and got you this. But we only did that because at some point she mentioned that she really liked Pandora, or she likes this charm, or she showed you an ad in Elle with a nice bracelet. So we quickly came to the conclusion that, you know, the way to men really goes through women, especially if you are in jewelry. The second part is we then grabbed some men and took them in. And a jewelry shop for men is quite a scary place to be, because there's just too many things to look at. And, you know, is she going to like these earrings? Is pearls the right thing for her? No, maybe it's too old. Does she like silver or gold? I don't remember. The wedding ring is gold. It's just very confusing. So what we see now is that when we go more and more into e-commerce, that's where the men are buying, because we'd rather not be seen in a jewelry shop. I'm generalizing here, it's not true for everyone, but you know, if we can sit in our office or in the evening when the kids are sleeping and browse through some jewelry and put something together without having a shop assistant looking over our shoulders, that's where we do it. So that's at least for our business.
Kenneth, there was an old Confucius saying thousands of years ago, and I got a feeling that you subscribe to it. Happy wife, happy life. He's nodding yes. All of them are nodding yes in their business. Anyway, that was a fantastic session. Thank you to each of you and all three of you. Just a couple of concluding remarks. We have, continuing the retail theme, our luncheon speakers include Adrian Chang from New World and also Elaine Lee from Richemont. So I think we're going to hear more about retail brands in Asia during lunch. I've been, I guess, a Federation office holder for 8 years now as chairman and currently as a MediaPass chairman. And I've had the privilege over 8 years of always moderating these opening sessions. I've really, really enjoyed it. And this one, I think, was the best ever. Just taking these foreign brands and learning how you're building them up in Hong Kong and Asia, and particularly China, we can use those concepts in our own businesses. So I hope you take advantage of some of the themes that they were very good at sharing with us this morning. So as of tomorrow's election, I will no longer be doing this, but one of the benefits I've had is meeting friends, making friends, and seeing old friends at this 400-person Hong Kong forum each year. That's truly the delight, and I think the number one benefit of being involved with the Hong Kong Federation Network and coming here every year. So it's been good to me, and I hope you're getting those same benefits, each of you, and it's equally good for you and your business. So can we just have a concluding round of applause and thank you to show our appreciation.